Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking your blessings, asking your forgiveness of our sins. And Lord, let us all be mindful that when we are in need, we can simply come to you, ask for forgiveness and guidance. Lord God, bless those who serve and protect us. In his precious name we pray. Amen.
Everybody had a chance to review the minutes, claims, and payroll. Any questions? No. Rick made a motion to approve claim payroll minutes. Second. Todd second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Do we have a Brad Isaacs?
Yes, sir.
How are you this morning, Brad?
Pretty good. How are you doing today?
Can't complain. Yeah.
Doesn't do any good. All on deaf ears nowadays.
It does.
It's all about going forward. Make them right around the wheel, right?
You can sit down, stand up, whatever you want to do.
I'll sit right here.
Okay.
Thank you. Here's some information printed out for you gentlemen.
Where are you from, Brad?
I'm from Jensen Spawns Engineering. I was born and raised in Jackson County. I'm the office manager at Jensen Spawns Engineering, our Columbus office, there in Columbus, Indiana. Been with them 18 years now. I'm in charge of the marketing in southern Indiana, as well as the construction inspection division from Minneapolis to Louisville, from Cincinnati to Evansville. I want to bring some information to you gentlemen today to help you, hopefully give you some background information on myself and the company and what we have to offer, but some information on the DOT agreement. Things that I realize that you guys are fixing to press. So I can bring a copy to you. Thank you. I've got an extensive background with project management and inspection. Like I said, I've been doing it for 17 years now. I served as a land surveyor for 15 years prior to the 17 years experience in civil engineering and inspection. I project managed projects anywhere from $200,000 to $12 million. And I've done that successfully, and I'm pleased with my clients in each and every attempt in doing so. But we've got times that are changing, as we all know. We got to embrace that. There's better ways to do things, and I do believe that you guys have reached out to a DOT, build, operate, process, potentially for your new garage. I think that's a great process. Jackson County just embraced that process 3 years ago and built the work release facility in the same way. So there's definitely advantages to that. I commend you gentlemen for seeing those advantages and choosing such a route.
Would you care to elaborate on the advantages and disadvantages of this?
Well, like I have in here for the disadvantages of, they do actually have that listed for disadvantages. This gives you guys an opportunity to get the end product, what you guys need for your facility as a county entity, while dealing with a quote-unquote developer of choice or a developer of selection to go forward with your guys' best interest in any county building, county entity, so on and so forth. In this case here, it just happens to potentially be associated with the new highway department, which I can tell you what, you guys are in definite need of one. So you're again commending you for recognizing the needs of your local community.
Problems are outrunning us.
Yes, sir. Well, it makes you feel any better. Problems are outrunning most of the local communities doing something.
Yeah.
So certainly commend you guys' ability to try to stay up with the pace. I can tell you there's other entities that's very much behind what you do on our end, you guys as taxpaying citizens. So I just want to let you know, I was looking over this here, some things that I identify immediately. I understand that time is of the essence. You guys have good weather coming around the corner. So as you guys go forward in trying to realize what you need to be providing for here, we probably need to come up with some type of a informational, which we refer to in the pack here as an RFI, which is a request for information. What that does is that allows people who are interested in becoming the quote-unquote developer of this project to reach out to you to get the specifics of the project. The big instance would be the total amount for construction. They'll certainly have to know that right there. They also refer to in this after the RFI process, which again is a request for information, they refer to an RFQ or RFP. So RFP would be the request for proposals, or RFQ would be the request for qualifications. Both of them are utilized, and one can be utilized in lieu of the other. I certainly encourage, make sure that personally, I believe the RFQ process works a little bit better. Reason being because it allows for you to do a quality-based selection. Not necessarily just a proposal, but a quality-based selection based on the potential developers past, the potential developers present. Are they reliable? Do they have the Washington County Commissioners and their decision that's best hand of their action each and every day? We've got some tall priorities here that's got to be met in a short amount of time. After we do decide upon a developer, quote unquote, as that's referred to in your packet, then we will have to get that developer, part of the requirements is going to have to provide a piece of land that's going to be suitable for you guys to go forward with your land. So that would have to be taken care of. Some other things as I look at the project would be to have to be allowed for be your local water, which would be your water source. You also have to have a local electric source. So the site chosen, whoever that developer may be, you have to be sure to provide for all of it. The other thing I want to make sure that to protect the county going forward, that developer would also have to be required right off the bat to provide a legal land survey of that parcel. That would protect the county not only through construction, but that would also allow the certified site plan to be tied to the exterior boundary of whatever parcel or whatever plot may be decided upon in the future. And that benefits the county because it protects you and the developer as well from liability during construction, people getting off of the property line, doing damage to the neighbor. We all want to be good neighbors. So that there is something I would recommend to the commissioners immediately upon the selection of the developer. Once the site is approved and the utilities accessing that site are approved, I would recommend that you continue boundary survey done immediately.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
During, like the jail project, the Justice Center project, and any other project we've done, we've always used like a construction manager to oversee to make sure that we're not being shortchanged and everything's being done in accordance. With that being done, and this, the way I understand it, the owner of the land, if they're willing, would do the building. Do we have oversight of the building during this so that we know that we're getting what we're paying for?
That would be the other service that I would be.
So you would serve as a construction manager?
It does do no good to come up with a certified site plan and assign the details and specifications to the buildings, these buildings, if you don't have someone out there, boots on the ground, making sure that you and the taxpayers in Washington County are doing what they pay for.
So are you doing like a daily inspection or a monthly inspection or?
Daily inspection would be recommended. Of course, the frequency of that inspection will be decided upon by superiors, which would be the commissioners and Mr. Rick Woods.
Okay.
Certainly, we try to dictate your needs to whatever extent you think those needs would be.
So Rick would have to come up with a plan, what he's going to need at the site,
Yes, sir.
and then,
Once that plan is come up with, then that plan will have to be put on a literal drawing, which was referred to as a certified site plan. In the state of Indiana, as you go forward with such developments like this, it is again protected for the entity to have a certified site plan, because that explains to the potential developer exactly what he is responsible for doing on this project. And with that certified site plan would become any details would be referred to as contract documents. That would also be in the three-ring binder for viewing of the potential developers before they submit their RFQs for selection. But then it does actually, in the printout here, it actually says that there that it is a good idea, of course, the local entity to provide someone on boots on the ground and daily inspection. It doesn't have to be each and every day. If you have something going on and there is concrete poured, then you're going to have reinforced concrete walls. It's going to be stem walls. We're going to have to specify the type of concrete, whether it's 1,000 PSI. We're going to have to specify the rebar, the frequency of the rebar, 1 foot on center, 2 foot on center, 2 bars for the thickness of the wall. We're going to have 6-inch walls, we're going to have 10-inch walls. All that there has money tied to those details, and the more specific and the more detailed we can get the contract documents for the viewing of your potential developers, it allows them to feel more comfortable entering into such a financial commitment process. It also outlines the requirements for the bond, the 100% for construction bond, also has in there 50% is required for a construction bond, or excuse me, performance bond. So it has different requirements in here that protect you before the process, during the process, and after the process upon transfer. And it also makes mention that some transfers in the local entities take as little as 30 days, and also some take as much, like Jackson County Work with These Facilities doing it over a period of 3 years. I certainly, as I read and research this, I recommend which is also they recommend in the packet, a quick turnaround, a quick transfer, which is usually up to about 30 days upon the completion. And then that's what they do the transfer up. Everyone can keep that to their specific needs. So there's nothing set in stone. This simply serves as a guide, and it's off the ICIU, it's 1243 is the code this is set up under in the state law, which I researched that. So yes, there's a lot of things that need to take place. We have to decide what the thickness of the stone is going to be for the quote-unquote gravel area. Assume it's going to be gravel area at the highway department. We'll have to figure out the thickness of that, so on and so forth. So all that has to be detailed because we have money tied to it for the developer's quote for construction, as far as the proposed quote for construction. And the more detailed we get that, again, as you read in here, part of the process is going to change. And that is very good for protecting local entities. You know, you don't be on the hook for that 200,000, that 250,000. In lieu of that, it's our job and responsibility to make sure that we provide a detailed and specified set of site plan and contract documents to make sure we don't leave our peers hanging out there.
Okay.
I have extensive inspection, I have extensive project management. Like I said, I've done numerous projects successfully in the last 16 years for the city of Columbus, Jackson County. And I do want to thank you gentlemen while before you today for the opportunity to be of service on the inspection of the Bexwell Bridge. I think we knocked that out of the park. It was an ongoing project for you guys to get to construction. I want to let you know that Mr. Boyle and I certainly took that very seriously, and I believe that we did deliver a quality project for the taxpayers and the board of commissioners. So I want to thank you guys for that opportunity.
Well, appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
Go.
You were talking about the project manager, was it either daily, weekly, what is that due to the price of the project or?
As far as from a developer standpoint of view, your developer section standpoint of view, I really don't think it will affect it. This would be something to be handled differently through the county. Say maybe a safety break of what it is for the county's best interest, or it can be incorporated into the agreement of your developer of choice once it's taken care of. But a certified site plan is a must. It would be one of the first things that have to take place before we can go forward in trying to attract developers, people coming in and be able to look at the documents and say, yes, I would like to participate in the RFQ.
So, question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we know we need it.
Yes, sir.
So the first process, we're gonna find the property to put it on, how much property we're gonna put it on, what we're gonna put on it.
Yes. And you have to find a developer who can supply that to you, sir.
And so then at that point, we're gonna have to advertise public hearing.
You advertise, and there is, in here, it clearly says the criteria as far as advertising. You have to advertise a week, you have to wait a week, and you have to come back and you have to advertise the RFI again to make sure that everyone in the public has an opportunity and an equal opportunity to access those documents and decide whether or not they want to participate.
So then, are you capable of helping us if we go this route? To do the whole phase of it?
Absolutely, and I have capacity to do so, and I check my schedule for the rest of the year to make sure that I did have capacity before I told you everyone I did. And it would be me personally, it would be no one under me, it would be me handling it personally.
Rick, any questions?
No, I've worked with Brad in the past, and I think you did a good choice for this.
Appreciate you coming
And
in.
like I said, if you don't have any questions after the fact, that's why I gave you the packets, you still want to be your lazy boy. And if you have any questions, just throw a big line underneath that, feel free to contact me. I'm just more than happy to come meet with you gentlemen at your convenience, and we'll go forward together.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Talk to you soon, thank you. I've got a plan commission appointment. Yes, recommendation to you guys that we appoint Lori Gilstrap to the Plan Commission to fill the vacancy of Tom Day.
I assume she's already agreed.
She's already been put to work.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we've got the town of Hardinsburg here. You haven't spoken?
Hey, you guys want to adopt this BLT ordinance?
Yes. You can go ahead and sit down, sir.
As we discussed in the last meeting, the first step down the build, operate, transfer path is for the county to adopt the state statutes in 5-23-1-1. And this is just a simple one-page ordinance. It essentially says Washington County it intends to adopt the state statute permitting Washington County to go down the build, operate, transfer path. It does not require us to do so. It still leaves the door open to go down a formal notice and bidding process. I've got a draft of the ordinance and available to the public. Again, it's one page, very simple ordinance.
Have a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
Todd's made a motion.
Second.
Rick second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
How are you this morning?
I'm good, how are you?
Pull the mic over to you.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me?
What's your name?
My name's Wayne Johnson.
Say it again.
Wayne Johnson.
I got it. Okay. You got the floor.
I'm here to talk to you guys about the dissolution of Hardinsburg. We are requesting that you guys reverse that decision. I brought with me the petition, and I know the legality of the petition was brought into question. It's not a petition to reverse your guys' decision. It was just a petition to get us in here to be able to speak to you guys about it. And with the signatures on this, we've got over 70% of the adults living within the town of Hardinsburg that signed this, that don't want to, they don't want to see our town be dissolved. I know that it was filed under statute through the state, and the requirements of that statute we don't believe are met for the dissolution of the town. We had a functioning government for the last 10 years. We've had a tax rate, and while the elections were called into question, the way I took it, I talked to the clerk of the court last year, beginning of last year, about filing to run for the town. And she said that if I filed, it would force them into an election. I was never given the opportunity to file to run for town board. All of this kind of came up, I guess, before the election year. But we've got people that are willing to step in and take care of the town, and we really don't want to see it go. And we're just here trying to spill a piece, I guess, to you guys, and that's what we're trying to do. So we ask that you guys would rescind that decision and give us the opportunity to have the people step in and take over the town and run it the right way. I mean, I can't speak for the past. I can't speak for how it was ran before. But I think that if you give us the opportunity, that you wouldn't regret that. I mean, there are a lot of people willing and want to see it. We're going to lose a lot of things from our town if this happens. I mean, all of our properties up and everything that we've done, our street lights, security, our fire department. There's a lot of things that we're not going to have there anymore that's going to affect our community, and we're just asking for the opportunity. And I'm just afraid that our town, not even being the smallest in Washington County, and all the towns across Indiana, I mean, if this happens to one, I mean, who's going to stop it from happening to every small town in Indiana? And it's just, I don't know, I guess that's what gets me is, I don't know, I don't want to kill every small town in Indiana, and I don't want to be the first one to die, so that's where I'm at.
Well, I think you're always going to be a a small town in Indiana,
Yeah,
but you are a vital part of Indiana. And a small community does make up our county. And the people working together on functions and baseballs and fire departments, and to me, it's a vital thing.
yeah, and I'd like to keep it in our town. I mean, I'd like for our community and the members of our town to have the opportunity to have a say in what goes on in our town. And I mean, we're gonna lose a lot of that, and I know that we're part of the county, you know, we're pretty far out there, but it's nice to have at least the opportunity as a citizen of the town to have a say in where our funds go and what goes toward our town, and, you know, what can be updated and what can be fixed. And I just think that having a say in our community is a better choice.
There's been a lot of gossip and a lot of rumors, and basically I think when it comes to our attention, and we got direction from one guy, and then we went to another guy and he had a different opinion, we went to another guy and he had another opinion, and we went to another one and they had another opinion. And we've been kind of struggling back and forth trying to do what we've been told to do. And I guess the process now comes back to, you've got signatures on the petition to reinstate Hardensburg. And have those names been verified? So, and they do have, how many? So with that being said, they got 30 names on a petition. And I'm unclear on this. What do they need to do next?
I can't give them legal advice, Cole, but there's
But you can give me legal advice.
What does the petition
not a
say?
public meeting.
What does the petition say?
This petition was signed this was all signatures that went around and got signatures from people that live inside the town that don't want to see the town dissolved.
Okay,
I think
what does the petition read? It's about 4 lines, right?
it's very top. So the signatures below represent citizens who are residents within the corporate limits of the town of Hardensburg, Indiana. By signing below, they are voicing their opposition to any efforts to dissolve the incorporation of their town, eliminating their town board or their town government.
Okay. That's a petition against dissolving the town.
Yes.
It's too little, too late. The town was dissolved last year. The petition should read, if you want to follow through with this and continue on this journey, and you certainly have the right to do so, but the petition should read, either you want it reinstated or you would like to see it reincorporated. The easiest path and the most clear-cut way, since it's been dissolved, is for those who are living in the town limits to go through a series of steps. And I'm not going to go into the steps. There's a gentleman in the room when you finish there that I would like to call on to explain once again, and he's explained this several times. Not twice, not 3 times, lots and lots of times. There's a process that can be done, and it's just a series of hoops. It's not difficult, but it'll take time.
So reincorporate.
Can I come up there and join him?
So, anyway, I'll shut up there.
No, that's okay.
Can I come up there and join him on the remainder of the time?
If he's finished.
I just have one question, though.
Go ahead.
We've got 2 avenues we can take, which is reincorporation or reinstatement.
We can't reinstate.
We can't reinstate. There's no option for that.
Not in my opinion, but
Because I know reincorporation is that's thousands and thousands of dollars. We have to have the whole town, the entire footprint of the town resurveyed. And that's money that, where are we gonna come up with $25,000, $50,000 to have that done to reincorporate our town? I know he came to our town and talked to us about it and made it sound like it was gonna be easy. But none of that was told to us in that meeting that we had about the financial burden it was gonna place on our town and the residents of our town to be able to do that. So, in my opinion, we were misguided in the whole process, and had we known the actual facts, I don't do any kind of politics I do construction, I'm a pipeliner, but I'm a citizen of that town and doesn't want to see it go away, and that's why I'm here talking to you guys, and I'm willing to step in and try to run that town the right way. But being misguided in the very beginning of it, and not being given all of the details and information, and then this happened, and now we're here trying to basically retrace our steps and do what's right. And that's all I'm asking, is that I think what's right to be done. And that's what I'll leave you guys with. I mean, if somebody else wants to come up here and talk, then
Thank you, Chad.
more than welcome, so.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Chad Johnson, and I've been here before. I just wanted to correct some things that we were talking about, because I've been in some of the previous meetings involving this situation. I agree with one. I feel like it was a misrepresentation. There were several things that were misrepresented to us. It was said that the reason for this was because we hadn't been holding elections. Come to find out, many towns, and it is a legal scenario, where if there is no one running for office against incumbents, that there is no election. They stay in position. I wasn't aware of that. Now, Jay Davison is saying that there is, there was some technicalities involved in there. They should have filed or whatever. They should have been filed. And I understand that. They were not informed of that, or they were not aware of that for whatever reason. But that's a technicality. The fact is that as long as there was nobody challenging them, they were a working government. It was a working town board. And that was something I wasn't aware of, and I don't think the town was aware of. The next thing is after the supposed disillusionment of the town, when we came in here to find out and to ask the path forward, we became very aware that we had been misguided. It was supposedly a simple step. We didn't have the funds or the legal counsel to reincorporate. And we asked that we be able to use that $12,000 or whatever it is, roughly that amount that was in the treasury, that was the town's money, to seek legal advice. We were told that wasn't a possibility. We haven't been able to do that. Matter of fact, I hear, and hopefully this is hearsay, hopefully this isn't true, but I hear that money's been used, at least a good portion of that money has been used for surveying the properties and possibly selling off the properties of the town. Now, maybe that's not true, and I hope it isn't, but let's just leave that there. We do need the money to be able to use that money to seek legal advice, because the town, regardless of if anybody else says that the town is a stupid move for this town to stay incorporated. You all say, well, you guys, you're going to be a town, you're going to be a neat little community, you just go on and sing your song and be happy, you don't need to be incorporated. But the fact is that as stupid as it may be, the town wants to be incorporated. That's the will of the people. That's the will of the town. And so, if it was through misrepresentation that this town was dissolved, are we going to have to go through the judicial system to reverse this? Can we not settle this here? That would be my question. I know, for instance, I understand that there may be some steps moved to sell the ballpark to the Little League Association. We love the Little League Association. My boys on the Little League Association. We want them to have priority in that priority schedule in that park, but that park has too many other options to be used, to be sold specifically to them, and it should stay in the town.
Let's stop this right here.
Okay.
Nobody is selling anything to anybody.
Okay.
They are leasing them.
Well, thank you.
We have given them permission to use the ball field, the Little League Corporation.
I was misinformed, thank you, appreciate that.
There's been a lot of that,
Right, well,
a whole lot of it.
well, I bet, you know what, I tried to, you know what?
Just
I
like
tried to call you the other day.
You know how many times my phone has rang in the last week?
Well,
I cannot possibly answer every call that's come to me.
Well, okay, then how am I supposed to get the facts straight? I tried to get the facts straight. I tried to text you and call you and I never got a
Okay,
response.
why wait till the last minute? Why wasn't this done last summer when Mr. Davis had told you the steps to do?
What are you being told is the steps to do?
He told you the steps to get the town reincorporated.
But we couldn't.
Step by step.
You yourselves admitted that there was no path forward here in a previous meeting. I said, is there no path forward? We don't have the finances to get the town surveyed. So if we had to get it reincorporated, we didn't realize that. But the whole town would have to be resurveyed. We were told by Jay Davis that if we kept the footprint the same, that we likely wouldn't need to have it surveyed. We don't have the money to survey it, especially if you took the money from us. There's no
We
path
ain't
forward.
taking any money from anyone. Well, I want to clear the air on that right now.
But it's our money, but we can't, but de facto you took it from us because we can't use it. It's in holding where we can't use it. You know that.
It's not your money, it's the county's.
It's the town's money,
County's.
towns. We pay for it, but it's our tax money.
It's now the county's money.
Well, now, it shouldn't have been. It is taxation without representation.
That's what it was before, that's not this mess.
That money was money that I paid for property tax that the town itself, the town members paid. That money is money that we paid, the rest of the county did not pay. We paid additional taxes. That's our money in there. And you guys took that and are holding it, and we can't use it even to survey to get it reincorporated. You're saying, well, go ahead, get reincorporated, but you're not letting us do that. I'm saying there is no path forward. It sounds all sweet when you say, well, that's fine, you just guys go get reincorporated. But behind the scenes, we can't do that. And the will of the people is, like you saw the signatures. The will of the people is, in that town, to stay incorporated. Let's not take this to court.
That's not how the petition reads, though. Petition doesn't read that way.
The petition reads to stay incorporated. Whatever, if you want to, that's a technicality.
Well, you gotta get your words right if you're.
Well, believe me, it won't take much. It won't take much to get the signatures we need for that. You know that.
Chad, have you checked into an attorney?
No, we don't get our money for it.
Have you checked to see what would cost you for an attorney?
There's some checking around, but no, we haven't done anything seriously. I did asking around, and I didn't even pursue it. Somebody said, well, you can go to this person or that person, but I didn't pursue it because why would I pursue it? I don't have the first dime to give to them. Yeah, that's really what we would like. We would like an attorney. Maybe go tell us exactly what you're saying. Maybe there is no path forward. Maybe we just have to accept that we're going to be unincorporated. We'd like to know that, but we'd like to know that from an attorney. We have no legal advice.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
How are you this morning?
All right, how are you guys?
Doing fine.
I appreciate the time here.
What's your name?
My name is Tony Cardwell. I was the one that actually went around and passed the petition. I actually got chased down the street by a lady who was very passionate. I got more of that side than I did the other. I only got like 4 people who did not want to sign the petition. Out of less than 90 people I talked to, there was probably, I think, 110 adults in the town of Hardinsburg. I think there's a couple hundred with children and all that all together. Not for sure the exact number, but, I got 70 people, 70% of the people in the town of Hardinsburg who signed the petition who wants to not see the town diluted and to keep control of their property and all this and that. The heritage goes way back there. We got tons of people who are willing to step up and be on the town board and et cetera and all that to get the town going legally to what Mr. James back here said it needs to be. You know, I guess, lack of education, shame on us or whatnot, but we're all getting educated here, so.
Yes, we are.
But, and I think there's a path forward right here to reinstate the town, if everybody's just willing to do so. You know, what studying I've done, what advice I've gotten, and this and that, so. The town's willing to work.
Are you a resident of the town?
I'm not a resident, but I do own a business right in town. And my daughter owns property, which one day wishes to build a house there and all that. And this is to, like, protect the future too, so. You know, I know Jeffers back here, not to mention no name, but they're very passionate about the ball field. Hey, thumbs up. But what happens 15 down the road when they lose that passion? You know, and the same way with the Senior Citizens Club. What happens when the people who's in the Senior Citizens Club loses that passion? Then no longer does the town own this property. Because, I mean, regardless of who says what, sooner or later the county will dispose of the property. That's common practice among all the counties when such situations happen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've been educated and told, so.
No, you're talking.
But that's what I got, you know, like I said, very passionate in Hardinsburg at this point. And there's been a question to me, why did we wait so long? I personally myself had emailed Mr. Roberts, never got no return. Didn't expect an email back that day or 2 days later, but sometime within a week or so, you know. Now, we all accountable for our actions or responsible for whatever position we choose to take on. So,
Sometimes we just think other people can take care of it.
yeah, but it don't happen that way.
No.
Now, here, us as a citizens of Hardinsburg is something for that. Sooner or later, the street lights will go out. I got commented, you know, that, oh, it only cost me $17 to put a security light up in my yard. Well, some of these people cannot afford $17 more a month. You know, it's cheaper for the town to provide that lighting than it is for the individuals themselves, if that makes sense. You know, not only we got a poor community, you know, but they're willing to work and make it a strive and make it a better place. And I don't think we should be controlled. And I got asked if I was a member of the town, if I lived there. No, but everyone, the squeaky grease right now, not a one of them lives in town, maybe one or two, you know. So, but I got a group of people right here that everyone else of them do live in town. But we would really like to see a resolution here.
At this point, we appreciate you coming in. We appreciate you voicing your opinion. And like I said, do you have somebody else with you?
Look, we got several people back here.
Larry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
May I say something? please?
Good lady standing. I'm sorry, I didn't see you standing there.
No, I just want to say something very quick.
Come on, make sure everybody can.
My name's Karen Courtney. I have been a resident. I live in town, right smack in town. I've been a resident since 1977. And I am very happy to be in Hardinsburg. I want you to know. I'm happy with what has been done and what has been said. And even though I knew the street lights may go off, I am a retired and $17 I can't afford it, and I got a security loss. Thank you. And I'm sure there's others here, and I can talk to others. We're happy with Hardinsburg. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I speak?
Yeah. What's your name?
Have a nice day. My name is David Coley, and I do live in the town of Hardinsburg. I've spoken to you all a couple of times along with Chad in several different meetings. I think not only were we misled, but a lot of the things that were done leading up to dissolving, or having to vote to dissolve the town, were also misleading. There was information that was either not complete, incorrect, or just outright lying. That basically allowed for the vote to take place in the first. And a lot of that information has come to light now as far as where the town was incorporated, when it was incorporated, the fact that it was legally done. And it was all based on the town not legally being incorporated. Well, if it wasn't legally incorporated, why is there a Senate bill right now to dissolve the legal incorporation of the town? And that's exactly how it's working.
I can't answer to that. That question could be answered in a little bit when Mr. Davidson comes forward.
Okay, the other comment that I have before I let Larry speak is we've asked Larry to come because he knows more of this than we do. And there's a lot of information that we weren't privy to as far as reincorporating and what would happen going forward if it was dissolved and everything else. So setting aside the fact that we believe that it was done with inaccurate or incomplete information, so it's not even a legal thing that you all could rescind or repeal if you choose to do so. There's also the fact of, as Chad stated, that we can't personally afford to hire an attorney to do this. If we can't use town funds that we pay taxes on to pay for an attorney to incorporate the town, why should it be up to the citizens to pay again after we've already paid taxes into the town fund to hire an attorney to either fight their decision, get it repealed, or whatever we need to do, or incorporate the town? It doesn't seem fair to us that this small town is being targeted and people never knew what was going to go on as far as the fire department pulling their truck out there and their homeowner's insurance going up, which has been talked about by the fire department and several other people. There's also the issue of the street lights, the drainage, whether the roads are going to be taken care of, and everything else. When we came in and asked you all at the last meeting, and Chad and I sat down here at this podium, we were told by you that there was no path forward for us to incorporate because we didn't meet the legal standard. But at the time, nobody really knew what the legal standards were. And we do know now part of it because of New Salisbury being incorporated, how much it costs and what they have to go do and all the steps. And that's part of what Larry knows because he's been involved in the process. So that's why we asked him questions to be our advisor. And we asked him to come today to speak on behalf of the townspeople. The people who actually live in the town are the ones who want the town to stay a town. The ones that have outside interest are the ones fighting to have it dissolved, and we don't think that's right.
That's what I can say right now.
All right, well, I'll let Larry have the floor and see if he can settle in the line. Thank you.
And I'm actually, with all of these guys, I'm for this solution. And whenever he was talking about the ditches being cleaned out and everything, I've said that for many years. While it was still in the town's hands, and I paid probably over $4,000 a year in taxes, where's all that money gone? I know that I've seen the trucks out there cleaning this year with the county for the snow removal and stuff. And, you know, that wasn't done before. And I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's went on throughout the years while it was in other people's hands that wasn't done right. And I don't know why they want to keep it that way where it's still not being done right. And that's just what I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, do you want to come forward? Sure. Larry, I did get a thing this morning from the State Board of Accounts.
Excuse me. Would you care if he introduced himself?
Go ahead.
There he is.
Sure, I'm Larry Shipples. I am, well, first of all, say I'm not from Hardinsburg, so I'm not a citizen. I don't really have a dog in this. I have worked with small towns through my involvement with politics and served on the election board for 10 years as chairman. And then also was following House Bill 1060, which did die for lack of getting out of committee. So my involvement is just in, and I think there's an effort to save small towns. So as a chance of that, like I said, I had several people call me and hunt me out. So I probably know more about Hardinsburg than I knew 4 weeks ago than just driving through it. So that's my background.
Yeah, I did talk to the State Board of Accounts this morning, early. And what they sent me was on September 8, 2022, the Board of Commissioners adopted an ordinance 2022-08, which dissolves the town of Hardinsburg under IC 36-5-1.1-12, effective September 30th, 2022. As a result of the local action, the town is not included on the department's 2023 certified budget order for Washington County. And that's what you told me yesterday, that they were in that. And I just wanted you to know what the said.
So actually, if you pull the budget order, and it was, and I think I may have it, but I'll get it for you in a minute. So if you pull the order that was online, the town, which is the budget order for 2023, the town has a tax rate in there of just under $2 listed on there. Now there is a piece of paper that has been added to that since I printed that off a week ago that says the town has been dissolved. So it accounts for that in there, but in the original issued budget order, it does have a rate for the town of Hardinsburg on there, because my assumption is they had passed a budget before the dissolution and it had been put in the process. I'll see if I can find that for you.
But it's not in there as of today.
See, they may have moved it since then. This was the budget order dated December the 30th. This was printed off, would have been last Thursday. Town of Hardinsburg had a 2023 district rate of 1.7014, and last year it had a rate of 2.0913, and that was signed by Wesley Bennett when that budget order was issued. I can show it to you. One of the things that I will tell you that is interesting with this, and like I said, I've heard from folks on both sides. And I've talked to several people in Annapolis who looked at a lot of emails that were exchanged back last year. Is it's hard to find anybody that has an agreement that matches the other and doesn't know what occurred here. It was clear they were incorporated, that they were recognized. There's some emails that indicate that they had been incorporated back at that point. They've had a tax levy, they've had a functioning government, they provided services out of that. They had been submitted to State Board of Accounts audits. So there's no question that they were a legitimate government at the time of dissolution. The Attorney General has not issued an opinion, has not made any directives, and was very clear that they weren't representing. The state did not have an issue with this, and they had not issued anything on it. The legislator doesn't have the ability to bring action on behalf of the state, and the Attorney General wouldn't be a representative for a legislator in that process. So there hasn't been any decision made or an opinion issued by the Attorney General on the standing of Hardinsburg.
Nor should there be, because we dissolved the town, so we could start over if there was enough will of the people to move forward, do the legwork, and work to reestablish their town. They're free to do that. We wanted to start clean and clear. This was our only, was my only motive, is to start fresh and start anew, because I don't have to tell anybody in this room that there were a lot of things that went on in the past that I think we shouldn't even talk about. Put it behind us. That was the goal. This is what we did.
And I will say this, and again, like I said, I don't have an interest either way. I'm not a resident of Hardensburg, and I don't have to say. This really only impacts the folks who live in Hardensburg, as it would any little town that was being dissolved. Those are the people who live there, who enjoy the benefits or non-benefits of a local town government. But having been asked, and I guess based upon my interest with that, I can only say this in reference to what's going on here. In history now and in the future, there will always be questions about how leadership of any government occurs. I don't know that if you have bad government, and again, I'm sorry, I don't know what items are being referenced to, but if you have bad government, that's handled in elections. And that time for town elections is this year. I mean, the town municipal elections, with a few exceptions, are the odd year before the presidential election. That wasn't afforded to these folks because it was taken from them before that. At the same time, if you were to dissolve any government unit that had bad government, we would have a mess. I mean, it would be a horrible thing that just because people think there's a bad leader, you would dissolve that. So I think, and if I'm hearing the folks from Hardensburg, the means they had a town government. They were legal.
That's not true.
Were they self-appointed?
So, question what you mean by self-appointed. Indiana statute covers the process by vacancies. So, if a office becomes vacant, the existing town board appoints the replacement to that if they ran as independents. If they had ran as party, then they would be picked by a caucus of the party. And my understanding in this particular case, and you could look at this in any small town, I mean, you got several over here that you could go look at, is that these were independent and the town council had replenished those. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have elections. What I would say is that they still had functioning government. They had replaced people who had went out of office. They clearly were there. They were being recognized. And you know, the chances that they were going to have an election this year sounds like that was great, because that's how this all started. Somebody wanted to run for office and they didn't get information. I mean, you're asking them to reinstate something that they already had. And the expense to reinstate the government that they already had, if I'm listening to them correctly, that's what they're asking, is they want a chance to have their elections, elect people to serve in those positions. I heard there's up to like 13 people who want to run for town board in Hardensburg. I can verify that, I don't know, and I understand some of them are going to file, but I think that's what the request before you is simply. And there is question there's still questions about House and Road Act that was done in 1893. There's some that believe that that's not valid, some that believe that that is. Depends on who you ask in Annapolis. I mean, everybody has a different opinion. And then there's questions about the statute that was used for the dissolution as to whether, did they have a function in government? And that's something that will have to be determined. If they decide to go the court route, then that would have to be decided in that fashion. Talking to the election commission, I mean, one of the recommendations that I even heard them come away with was it maybe wise for them to get legal counsel to work with your legal counsel and essentially end up filing in court and getting a judgment based upon the validity of the statute that was used for the dissolution. That would answer a lot of people's questions. It would answer the question, it would take DLGF and all those folks off the table because a court order would resolve many of those unresolved issues. Now, I know when Mr. Marshall talked to me, the question was about elections. And I guess the clerk was concerned about the elections, the ability to hold an election this year. Is that my understanding? So,
Yes,
Did you hear the question?
I did hear the question, but the statement prior to that, as you know, we have spent many hours on Martinsburg and have taken no decision lightly, all the way back to our first election book back from the 1800s. 3.5 hours was spent going through all the election books once state representative came back to us and said that if we hadn't held elections within 10 years, then as far as the town of Hardsburg, then it needed to be dissolved. But before the county election board even put that on to their agenda, we seeked co-legal counsel with Matthew Kochever of the Indiana Election Division. He gave us the state statutes and said, yes, we could proceed under the state statutes that were provided to us. And so we went through all the books, even back to the 10 years, and I also went all the way back one Sunday to our first election book that the county holds, all the way back to the 1800s. And there were no record at all that Hardsburg had ever held an election. There is state statutes to appoint for vacancies, but that is when that office has been elected. So there was never, in our records, all the way back to the early 1800s, of any election held in Hardinsburg. And then we had to seek legal counsel if they went through the steps to become an incorporated town. We were given, again, guidance through Matthew Kochever, co-legal counsel for the Indiana Election Division, of the multiple state statutes and the process for them to become the town and then start holding elections on a municipal year. So again, they would have to pass an ordinance to make up their governing body and the members and their term limits under 3-10-7-2.5. And then if they wanted to then go on to our county election cycle, then they needed to pass further ordinances to change their time frame off of a municipal year to 3-10-7-2.7. And then to change that election year would be 3-10-7-2.9, just like the town of Campbellsburg and the town of New Pekin does. So those elections do not cost the city or the county any money, because for instance, like this year, we're putting on the City of Salem election, we're contracted out to do that, but under state statute, it does cost the county a percentage that we do not get reimbursed for. But like the town of Campbellsburg and the town of New Pekin, they fall on our county election cycle, and it's no cost to that town.
So I guess if we go into specifics of the election, because I guess the question is if this was rescinded and if there was an order reinstating them as a town about the elections, well, and I would agree with the clerk on some of that. I would say this, small town elections on towns under 3,500, it is their choice. It is their responsibility to hold their elections through their clerk treasurer unless they decide otherwise. Just like she mentioned with the town of Salem, has contracted with the county to hold those elections. It doesn't happen that way everywhere. I've handled elections where the town clerks handle their own elections. There's kits that they get, there's companies they go through that they can still even use paper ballots. So it's the town's decision up until August the 8th if they want to run their own election or if they want the clerk to do it. If this town board were functioning, if this were rescinded and they were allowed to exist, they would have to make that decision by August the 8th. If they decided that they wanted to run their election by state statute, they would chain the materials through one of these independent companies. The only thing the clerk's office would provide them would be the voter polls some assistance related to absentee voting, and when the election's over, they would report those results to the clerk and as well as the paperwork that goes with it. So it wouldn't be a burden on the clerk unless the town decided they wanted the clerk to run it. It's the town's decision if they want to run their own elections or not. Now, some towns have chose to go on a regular election cycle. It's not commonly. I mean, there's still a lot of small towns that are still on the odd year. I mean, for example, in Harrison County, none of our towns are on the regular election cycle. They're all on the odd year. So this year would be the year for those elections. And some of those towns do conduct their own elections. They don't necessarily have the county do it. That's up to the town whether the county conducts their elections or not.
Okay.
They would still have to pass the ordinances to make up their governing body on how they want to do it. If they want to, again, go back to having an election at the kitchen table after Sunday dinner, more power to them, but they still have to, this is the United States of America, they still have to pass the ordinances and be compliant with state statutes.
Correct. And there's the time there to do that. There's also some reference to establishing districts. There was a law, and I don't have this particular statute. I believe it was passed in the 90s. If a town didn't have, because the question is, do you have District 1, District 2, District 3? There was a statute that was passed, and I can get that for your attorney later if need be, that specifically said if a small town under 3,500 had not properly done districts, then as of a certain date, they would go to all at-large candidates. So that's what all small towns mostly are now, is that all 3 people are at-large. If there are 3, it depends on what size their board. They would all be at-large candidates, so it's not necessarily creating districts. That's established through statute.
And to add to what you just said, Mr. Davidson stated that back last fall, whenever it was, that they had to get the ordinances written to become, that was part of.
Well, this is the Indiana Election Division. Also,
I know
gave
the
us-
town
yes.
still has to have those ordinances in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You still have to make it in written and to the public on how your government is going to function.
But Mr. Davidson stated that.
Yes.
They were not given direction, they were given direction.
We've had, it's documented, and it's on the county website, we've had at least, my memory serves me right, 3 public meetings regarding this before you ought to not take the decision lightly by any means. I mean, we worked on this and worked on this, seek guidance from the multiple state entities. And so you all dissolving the town, and like I said before, if you go into Martinsburg, I know that's close to your heart, Phil. You go into Martinsburg, there is a sign that says Martinsburg established, the year it's been established. You guys are on the map. Do you all have a functioning government? No. But you still have nice things in your town. Your town's still nice. You're not paying town taxes. You're still getting snow plowed. You still have a fire station. Because the fire emergency services are for the county and the township. Just because you all dissolved the unfunctioning government of Hardsburg does not mean that they do not have fire service anymore. That's the township. The service is provided by the township, which is my township.
I will tell you, as I said, you can't get 2 people in Annapolis to give you an opinion. I can tell you there's not a sound opinion up there that either way or the other, there's people on both sides of this issue. And obviously this will be looked at, I'm sure, for a while. I will, to be honest with you, I perfectly believe that part of this was carried forward with House Bill 1063 is to try to set an example for an effort to begin to dissolve these small towns. I'll go back to what I said earlier. I won't give you my opinion on whether Hardinsburg should be incorporated or not, because I don't live there. The people who are affected by that, and I appreciate the clerk's opinion about plowing snow and that type of stuff, those are logical questions that we all have to answer. But the question is, in my opinion that's before you, is what do the people of Hardinsburg, in that what was corporate limits, want? What does the majority of those folks want? You know, you can require them to go through all these steps and spend the money. I mean, I can tell you we're doing Harrison County, doing New Salisbury now, because there is there is benefits to being a corporation. And obviously, if there wasn't, we wouldn't be doing this. The commissioners, Commissioner Crawford has worked tirelessly on this. We've all been taking the meetings. Right now, the county has spent over $25,000 helping New Salisbury get incorporated. You do have to do those surveys. You do have to go through those processes. And it's putting them through a burden that I'm not sure they have to do. If the real question here isn't what I think or what Jay thinks or anybody else thinks. The question is, what do the commissioners and the town folks of Hardinsburg think? And if you all want to make that happen, I'm sure there's a way to get there. If it's not, then they have to look at their other options, or you have to look at your options. But I think the biggest question here is not whether somebody has a time to hold the elections or we get the tax rate right. The question is, do the people of Hardinsburg, the majority, want to retain what they have, and are the commissioners wanting to work with them to accomplish that? I think that's the bigger question, without all the outside entities who really don't matter in this have to say.
I appreciate your time. Sure. Mr. Shickles. Andrew Stephanie,
President of Hardinsburg, I have reached the status old man in the rest of it. So if you want to stop me, correct me, or throw me out at any point.
pull the mic over next to you.
I heard a lot of things this morning.
Pull the mic over next to you. Thank you.
Now you have to listen to me.
I like it.
I heard a lot of things this morning. A lot of things that bother me. I was a union steward my entire career. One of the issues I debated most often and quite frequently was jurisdiction. Jurisdiction. Who has the right to argue over what? The fellow that spoke prior to me, very knowledgeable, very good intentions. Not a resident of the town of Hardinsburg, not a resident of the county. There's a lot of that going on. We have people from Orange County, we have people from Clark County, we have people from all around that have no jurisdiction in this debate. He makes good points, but they don't apply. He has no jurisdiction. If he wants to advise individuals, fine. But unless you people summons him for advice, he has no jurisdiction. That's my opinion. And you know what those are worth. The question about the monies of Hardinsburg. We hear people say, it's my money, it's our money, it's my money. We want it for legal fees. Okay, that's fine. But if you're on this side of the line and you want to fight for legal fees to reestablish the town of Hardinsburg, you want that money to promote your cause. I personally am on the other side. I'm glad you dissolved the town. I think our services have already improved. I don't want the town reinstated. So, if those are, in fact, our monies, then don't use my money to reinstate the town of Hardinsburg. Now, the question of a functioning government in the town of Hardinsburg. I've been involved in this probably deeper and longer than most people in this room, as you fellows well know. The town board, and I'm not going to go into individuals, but the town board in Hardinsburg appointed, and these are facts, appointed one member at a meeting that was never conducted. My wife and I went to the meeting. The town board never showed up, only one member. The town hall was never unlocked. At the next meeting, they produced a set of minutes showing that they had appointed a board member at that meeting. When I questioned them, they said, oh yeah, we forgot. We appointed her at the kitchen table on Sunday afternoon when we all got together. Very illegal. One of the other town board members, this is fact, I know this, was appointed while he was Kentucky. I know that because I worked in the same factory that he worked in. I know his hours. When I questioned the town board, the president of the town board said, oh yeah, we did that. We appointed him over the phone. If you're working on a production line, you can't go to the phone and be appointed to a town board. Questions of the board functioning. When I started going to the meetings, the reason I started going was to question the way they were conducting business. Everything was conducted at executive session, and then the regular meeting was, and when I say everything, paying the bills, conducting all the business was an executive session prior to the public meeting. When I questioned this and pointed out state statute, they said, that's the way it is, it's the way it's going to be, it's none of your business. I filed formal complaints through the State Board of Accounts and the Attorney General's office. It caused quite a ruckus in the town of Hardinsburg. I was a really unpopular fellow for a while. But the town board changed a lot of their practices. The question of an election in Hardinsburg. If you will recall, at the ballpark meeting, when Mr. J. Davidson questioned the town board president about elections, he made the statement, quote unquote, town can't hold elections. We don't have enough money to hold an election. When things got serious and it seemed as the town was going to be dissolved and the town board was going to lose its seat, for lack of a better word, that same town board president had a revelation. He stood up and said, oh, we found some money we didn't know we had. Now, I say all this because it really bothers me that we have so many people from outside the community. Maybe their intentions are good. I don't know. Who knows what another person's intentions are. But we have all these people from outside the community, even outside the county, who are trying to influence the future of the town of Hardinsburg. And the town still exists. Rooster Threster is still there. They haven't changed their menu. The Marathon station still sells gas. And for whatever reason, the streetlights are still on. But these people from outside the county are working so hard to influence our future. Yet, the people that live in the town of Hardinsburg are happy. If someone wants to step forward and organize an effort to reincorporate the town of Hardinsburg, you can do exactly what I have done in the past. If you contact the State Board of Accounts, the Attorney General's office, any agency in Indianapolis, they'll talk to you, they'll answer your questions, they'll invite you to come to Indianapolis and meet with them. But there are statutes and rules that have to be followed by a resident of the town of Hardinsburg. And until that date, all of this other stuff, the only thing that disappoints me, and now I'll really get in trouble, I'll have to go out the back door here in a minute, is why are you fellows, as a governing body of this county, including the town of Hardinsburg, giving an audience to people who have no jurisdiction?
You want an answer to that?
It's hypothetical, though, if you could answer.
That's one that's good. I didn't know you, wouldn't have known you. I may have seen you at Roosters. I don't know. I go down there quite a bit. But I didn't know you, I don't know where you live at. But you are a person of interest that come to us, and I appreciate what you said here. And most of the people in this room, I don't know. And I've probably seen them someplace along the line. But I feel like they do deserve a voice. Now, their voice to them is just as important as your voice is to you.
And I understand that. But if they are not a resident of the town. At the ballpark, the quote-unquote ballpark meeting that Jay Dixon held prior to the dissolution of the town, he separated. He had a group over here of non-residents and a group over here of residents. And if I can quote him the closest I can, he told the people who were non-residents, he said, I realize you have an opinion and your opinion matters. It just doesn't matter in this instance. It doesn't matter in the decision concerning Hardinsburg. And I agree with that completely. Anybody wants to speak, everybody has opinions. We all have opinions. But if they don't apply to the town of Hardinsburg, if you're not a resident, you can't vote in a decision, you don't have a voice.
And as in a corporation, they do right now, the way it states, Hardinsburg people, or Hardinsburg community is a community. They come together with all people. When you have a function, a fish fry, something else, do you go to Hardinsburg within the town itself and help them out? Does your neighbor, if he lives in Hardinsburg or outside of Hardinsburg, do the people attend to help out? Yes, all people do.
Okay.
It's a nature.
Okay, and I eat at McDonald's in Clarksville, but I can't vote or voice my opinion in Clarksville.
I agree.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming forward.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay? Chris, morning.
Got a headache, how about you?
I'm here.
Feel like I should have brought my boots this morning because the maneuvers are getting quite deep. I think I've been fair and very clear from day one when we started talking about Hardinsburg. So I'm not going to mince any words this morning for anybody listening. My father taught me that doing what is right is not always easy. And that's exactly the case here. I never expected this to be easy, but I knew that it was right. It was right to look at the facts. It was right to hear people out. And it was right to take the actions that were taken. This has become a circus. The fact that we're still discussing this issue is not only a waste of taxpayer money and time, but it's also undermining the very integrity of our republic. Last year, there was 8 months of discussion on this matter. All of the facts were presented after an exhaustive amount of research was conducted. Advisory opinions were provided from nearly every level of state government, all of which concluded one common theme. Okay? The town of Hardinsburg government had failed to conduct itself properly for more than a century. They were unable to maintain their property. They have never held a single election. They have never passed any ordinances. They failed multiple audits, which highlighted major problems. The very night that this body held a public hearing to unincorporate the town's de facto town board president gave you a list of problems that the town wanted fixed. Now that should have been a wake-up call for everybody that was in this room. The taxpaying residents of Hardinsburg were not getting what they paid for, and I commend this body for unanimously voting to unincorporate Hardinsburg. It was absolutely necessary. Rescinding your decision to unincorporate Hardinsburg or even considering it is dangerous and irresponsible. You are giving a voice to those who have no skin in the game. You are giving a voice to the minority who believe that an unaccountable form of government is okay. And in doing so, you are ignoring the majority who will have to pay taxes for an unaccountable government. So my advice to you three gentlemen is very simple. Stick to the original plan. If the town of Hardinsburg wants to be incorporated, there is a process to do so under current law. And since I have the floor, let me again state for the record what that process is. Indiana Indiana Code 36-5-1-2 states that a town may incorporate by doing the following. A petition must be signed by 10% of the population that will reside within the town limits, which for Hardinsburg is approximately 25 people. That petition must include the following: the proposed territory that will be included in the town, why incorporation is in the best interest of the citizens. It must list by name, phone number, and address each person signing the petition. And finally, the petition must state if the town wants to seek incorporation by public question in a special election, of which the petitioner shall agree to pay the cost of that special election. Now, this petition cannot include more than one person per parcel of land. Once that petition is completed, it must be submitted to this body and must include the following: a survey of the land to be incorporated, which you can go downstairs and get a copy of because it's already been surveyed. A list of all residents within the proposed incorporation, which you can get by the clerk's office, maybe the auditor can assist in that. A statement of the assessed value of all real property. Again, that's already done. Go get a copy of it. A statement of the services to be provided to the residents of the proposed town. A statement of the estimated cost of those services. Not earlier than 60 days, nor more than 90 days after receiving the petition, this body should hold a hearing to consider the petition. And let me bring special attention to this part. The parties entitled to be heard on the matter of the incorporation do not, and I repeat, do not include those who will not be impacted by the decision to incorporate. That is written specifically, black and white, in law. To be blunt here, if you will not be paying taxes as a resident of Hardinsburg, you have no right to be heard on the matter. At this hearing, if a petition against the incorporation of Hardinsburg is presented and includes at least 51% of the proposed residents, which for Hardinsburg is approximately 127 people, then this body is required by law to dismiss the petition to incorporate. This body must be able to prove that the proposed incorporated town shall be able to provide at least 6 services to its residents and believe that it can reasonably sustain itself. At this point, you may adopt an ordinance incorporating the town, or you may put it in the hands of the voters in the form of a public question on the next primary or general election. Now, there's a lot of people that said, this is hard, it's impossible, we can't do it. But it's not rocket science, it's not complicated, and it shouldn't be controversial. The path to incorporation is clearly laid out in Indiana Code. If we cannot go through this process to be incorporated, then why should we even consider pondering the question of whether or not you should rescind your ordinance? They can't do the basic. It will never get any easier than going through the process of incorporation. It will never get any easier than that as that government goes on to exist. Today, point example, look at the hard decisions that this body has to make. This is the hard work. Getting us established as a county was not the hard work. It's the work that comes afterwards. So everything's clearly laid out in Indiana Code, and it's there for a reason. Use it. It will not only benefit you 3 gentlemen in terms of time and headaches, but it will also greatly benefit those who will ultimately be footing the bill if the town is incorporated. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have of me.
I guess the only question I would have, and I have to agree with everything you said, yet I understand where they're coming from too. We took all the records, went down, took them, like we had to do, and then we had the State Board of Accounts got to come in, they got to go through it all. We got to get Steve Metro Anderson to go through everything and get ready to subject to State Board of Accounts. And then we paid their bills at the money they had. Like Mr. Coots, it's not my money, it's their money, and what have you. So right now, we have a remainder, after bills have been paid, that had to be paid. Their money was put in an escrow account. The question came up a while ago, can they have that money to find legal advice? And I'm not trying to, you heard my lawyer say it, I'm a lawyer for you, not them. They don't have an attorney to be their speaker. Now, you come to us, and I appreciate what you did, and Stephanie pointed this whole thing out, and they didn't have elections, and it wasn't being represented according to your 6 articles they need to do. Now, to do this, they're all fine people, but we're not attorneys. Do they have the legal right to that money to hire an attorney so that their attorney can talk to my attorney?
My advice to you would be twofold. Listen to how your legal counsel is advising you on that matter. The caveat to that, I just clearly laid out in under 2 minutes what is necessary to be done. Everything that the town needs to become incorporated already exists. Quit being lazy, go downstairs, ask for copies of those documents, put it together, present it to you 3 gentlemen, and let's move on with this issue. They don't need legal counsel for this. It's too easy.
Do you people understand that? People of Hardsburg, do you understand what he just said?
I understand it, but I disagree with it because.
I've got one statement.
No, we're not going to get out of hand here.
Oh, no, I was just wondering if I could come up after he was done. I've just got like one more question for you.
Put this to rest. What's your question?
I was told when I was up there that there was no possibility of you rescinding your decision to dissolve our town. But Mr. Davison just said that the fact that you're even considering it is a waste of government time. So that means that there is a possibility that you could rescind your decision, give us the opportunity to go back and set right. I can't answer for everything in the past that was done there. So, but to have the opportunity for us to make our town and to run it the right way.
Can you comply to what the state is asking you to do to get reset?
Yeah.
I have one more comment on that. The way I understand what Mr. Davidson just said was the petitioners have to be the ones to pay for the initial start period. The 10 people, 25 people.
No.
So you're misunderstanding. Let me go over that again, okay? If you want to hold a special election, you as the petitioners have to agree to pay the cost of that special election. If you want to jump on a primary or general, it's a different scenario.
So if it's done to the county, then it's primary.
In a perfect scenario, when a town is incorporated, the county election board will flip the bill for the very first election.
I misunderstood that. Thank you.
Okay. Stephanie, do you have something?
Well, they go to the public question, for instance, like this year, we're going to be in the city of Salem. That public question cannot be on that ballot because we're in the city of Salem. It would have to be a special election held in Hardsburg for the 2 mile by 2 mile town of Hardsburg. But at this point, the state is not recognizing it as a town at this very moment because it's already been dissolved. So I can't or they can't, there's no governing body out there now to go out to hold a special election. They would have to be an incorporated town in the state's eyes.
Can Jay Davis answer what is the purpose of House Bill 1063 then?
Yeah, I'd love to speak to that. Thank you for asking that question, Chad. There's been a lot of misinformation, relating to that bill. House Bill 1063 is very simple. The question of the legality of dissolving the town of Hardinsburg, twofold there. One is, this body recognized that the town was incorporated. Okay? They couldn't dissolve something that wasn't incorporated. Okay, so everybody came to the conclusion, although all of the necessary things weren't there and weren't in place, this group decided that they were incorporated and took the necessary steps to dissolve. That power, that authority rested within these three gentlemen to do that. It was already legally allowed by law. The question that came in was, what do you do with all of their assets afterwards? That was inadvertently left out when that section of the code was added in. And so House Bill 1063 was just saying that what happened after the dissolution should be considered legal, and the legal authority for that, and your legal counsel will know this law. I'm sure it's called the Home Rule Law. That is in Title 36, Chapter 1-3-4. Again, that's called the Home Rule Law, and that specifically says that in terms of local government, that all powers necessary or desirable to conduct its affairs are allowed. So if the law doesn't explicitly tell you that you can't do it, then you can do it if it's necessary, if you feel that it's necessary. So what happened with Hardinsburg after the dissolution, so let's be clear here, the dissolution process was according to law. It was spot on, absolutely correct, and legal. The question was, what happened to the assets afterwards? That is where the Home Rule Law took effect. We took advice from multiple agencies on how to handle that. The decision on how to handle the assets of Hardinsburg were done in accordance with the rest of the chapter. So if you look at the other sections of that chapter, Hardinsburg was considered to be dissolved the same as those other sections, and therefore their assets were handled accordingly. So nothing was done illegal. House Bill 1063 was just saying, hey, we as the General Assembly, we messed up. We inadvertently left out something. We didn't make it clear enough, and so we wanted to clear that up. Now, that will apply if that bill goes through. Sure, that'll apply to other towns that are dissolved. What that bill does not do, it does not give any special attention, or it's not going to make it any easier to dissolve towns. Again, the ability to dissolve a town is already clearly laid out in Indiana code, period. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
You have a question, Mark?
I think, yeah, I do want to point out, 1063 doesn't address anything related to the disbursements of the assets. 1063 specifically recognizes ordinance 2208, 10, and 11, and it also recognizes the legislation or the act of the legislature of 1893. It has nothing to do with legalizing the distribution of assets. It specifically was a bill introduced specifically to clear up the question as to whether the town could be dissolved, because there is still question under the 1893 act of the legislature whether that could be done. So I don't, Mr. Davison may be getting his numbers confused, but 1063 has nothing to do with that. It is, 1063 is specifically coming back and saying that what the commissioners did was legal, and that's under, again, ordinance 2208, 10, and 11. And then it also comes back here and says acts of 1893 relating to the town of Hardinsburg. So there's still some question about the validity of the resolution, and there's still questions about the act of 1893. That bill has not passed, by the way. It is in the Senate and has not got a hearing. So 1060 did fail and never has made it out, didn't even make it out of the committee.
Well, first of all, again, this is the part of politics that I just love. Lawyers love going around and around about interpretations. So, to be clear, yes, 1063 passed unanimously out of the Indiana House of Representatives. For those of you in the audience here, that is 2/3 of the Indiana General Assembly said that what was done in Washington County in regards to Hardinsburg was legal, that it was okay. All right? We're at the halfway point. It just started back yesterday. They went back into session. So all the bills that passed out of one chamber go to the other chamber. The House Bill 1063 is not dead. It has been assigned to a committee, and it hasn't had a hearing yet. So until the chairman of that committee makes the determination that he's not going to hear the bill, it's not dead. So in regards to the language of the bill, again, I will disagree with you. It specifically cites the ordinances. And so one of the ordinances was how to dispose of all of the assets of Hardinsburg. So that is what we're trying to clear up here. There is no question, nobody, not a single agency in the Indiana state government disagrees with the fact that these three gentlemen had all of the power to dissolve the town, okay? And it is not the business of the state of Indiana to render an opinion on why they took that route, why they chose to dissolve. That's on them, not the state. So the state got involved in helping them address, again, the glaring issue, the thing that was missing in the Indiana code, per that section, section 12, in which they dissolved the town, and how we handle the assets. So it would be absolutely ludicrous to think that we're going to dissolve the town and then we're just going to leave all of its money, all of its assets just sitting out there hanging in the wind. That would have been irresponsible. So the responsible thing to do was to figure out, okay, Indiana code did not tell us how to handle things after the town is dissolved. So that's what this bill does. This bill says that everything that these gentlemen did in accordance, with standing law and based on the interpretation of that law of several agencies, that what they did was correct and necessary. And again, I don't care if this bill passes or not, because any court of law that looks at this is going to cite the home rule law, which again, let me specifically say again, what the home rule law does. It gives all the powers to anybody of government, anything that's not explicitly told that they cannot do under current law. So I hope that answers the question, Chair.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you for clearing the air.
Any other questions?
I got one.
Come on.
Is Jay a lawyer? I mean, he's giving legal advice, I just don't know how to take that part of it.
No, let's be clear here.
I don't know, that's what I'm...
No, hey, you asked a great question. I'll say it again.
Well, I missed a question.
He wants to know why I'm providing legal advice.
No, I asked if you was a lawyer. And
A lawyer, he wants to know if you're an attorney.
No, I am not an attorney. I am not providing legal advice. I am providing an opinion that as a former state representative, that I was provided opinions from the state of Indiana. That was my job as a state representative, was to be a conduit between the county government and the state government to advise them on how to move forward and answer any questions.
And Jay has helped us all the way through, and we're still in that, trying to figure out where we are.
I mean, my opinion there, I mean, he was giving law advice, and that wasn't his job as a state representative. But that's my opinion, just like that.
It's not legal advice, by the way. I'm telling you exactly what the law said. I read it verbatim for everybody in the public record right here.
Everybody interprets it in different ways, too.
Okay, at this point, we're going to move on. And I do appreciate everybody coming in.
Thank you, Jay.
I highway department, is he still here? Yep.
You got me back clean, don't you?
We took your keys away from you.
As you know, we had a pretty busy end of the week last week with the storms. Did a lot of storm cleanup, what the guys done the last couple of days, cleaning up, hauling off trees. Should have that wrapped up this week, I hope. Couple of lingering effects will be log jams. This is the smaller of the two, I'll show you. Blue River Church Road.
Is that the same place it was at? Is that the same place it was at?
Yeah, this one's right on the bridge, right there in the bottom of the property. The new owner of that property is Chad Burcham. I've contacted him, and he has no issue with us cleaning out the log jam and putting it on his property and burning it, providing that we leave things as good or better than we found them. So that's about all we can ask. We'd like to get started on that probably within the next couple of weeks. I'll have to contact Temples and see their availability on the machine. The next, a larger log jam of the two is on Fredericksburg Road. This is a pretty sizable project. I estimate it'll take, with the removal of the log jam, we'll have to sit it there and let it drain, try to dry out just a little bit if the weather cooperates. And we're probably looking at a week-long burn. Everything's waterlogged and soaked. You'll see the second page there, the blue outline. The county actually purchased some property there, the right-of-way. So the actual area, the jam itself is county property. However, Mr. Todd Armstrong owns the field adjacent to that, and we will have to get with him and see if we can use his property like I mentioned with Mr. Burcham. Pages 3, 4, and 5. You can see the extent of the jam. I mean, it's pretty significant. It'll be several days removing it and then leave a dry out period. And then I'm going to say a week-long burn to try to get rid of it. Now, in the past few years, we've had issues with some log jams that were sort of out of the highway department's jurisdiction. They were midstream. The one pro to this, since both of these are actually affecting the bridge itself, we can use the bridge fund, maintenance and repair funds to take care of this. So it's just a matter of time and work, shouldn't be a big issue.
Check one in, Fredericksburg.
Fredericksburg? That's a fairly new large bridge right behind the cemetery. Like if you were in the cemetery there in town and look to the north, it's right across the stream there. The next street over, next road over.
Okay.
But I think we've got it pretty well under control. Just wanted to make the commissioners aware of what we had going on.
Appreciate that.
Can I ask you, do you have to get a permit from
I've got a call in and an email in both to IDM and DNR. The one down off of Blue River Church Road is small enough, I don't think there'll be any issue there. The larger one, I'm going to double check just to kind of cover us. And I don't think, we're not going to actually get in the stream, we'll be in the field working, but I'm going to double check on that one just to make sure we're compliant. And that's it for me.
How many trees you have down?
Friday evening and Saturday, I counted up to 30. We probably had a couple we got out of the way on the way to bigger trees, but I know we had a count of 30.
Anything else?
That's it for me unless you got questions.
Appreciate all your work.
Right.
Test? You. Kara?
I have a couple of grants here for the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. One of them, are grants, one's for housing repair. The subsidy limit increased to $38,650. And this other one is just, it's a block grant for $1,000.
motion on that? To accept.
I'll make that motion to accept the grant.
Second.
Chris made a motion, Todd second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Just yours.
Anything else? That being said, I need an adjournment. We have an art painting tonight. Our recess. Recess. You know what I mean.